Hey y'all, Grandma Rose here. Oh, I am hoping that we're not going to get a whole lot of traffic noise today. We'll see what happens. Now, if there's too much traffic noise, I'll cut it out. That's okay. But it's nice and cool. No, it is not nice and cool. Relatively cool, considering that it was so hot this afternoon that I kept having to go inside, trying to work out in the yard, and I gave up on it. And ended up going inside and was working on another video that hopefully I'll get up pretty soon. But anyway, the reason I thought about this and I wanted to record this is in one of the live chats just recently, last night, the past few days, someone, here we go again. I don't remember exactly what the discussion was. The person said, my grandson used to grow pot, and she was growing something using some of the containers that he had, and whoever the host was, questioned that, said, oh my goodness, I mean, are you sure that's what he was talking about? Don't want to get shut down here. Well, I don't want to get shut down here either, but it brought to mind something. It reminded me of something that happened so many years ago that I can hardly count, but when I was in graduate school. Not necessarily that I was doing that. No, I wasn't doing that, and I didn't know anybody that was. However, if you're old enough to remember, before the automated registration, what is on my hat? Is that a bee? Let's get close. I'm going to bend over really close, and we can see what that was. Some kind of an insect, and it's gone. But anyway, how many of you remember going to college registration, and there were graduate students sitting at the tables, and you had to sign up in person and write your name down on a piece of paper and get a card saying that you were indeed registered for this class? Well, I was one of those graduate students and sitting at the botany table. And one of the classes that they had that semester was a class called Botany for Gardeners. I don't say botany for gardeners. And this guy came up and he was registering for botany for gardeners. Now that was a non-majors class. Get this up a little more decent here. It was a class intended for people who were not majoring in the sciences. So it was supposedly a lower level botany class that people who were majoring in business or whatever, a liberal arts class of some kind, could take this class and fulfill their requirements for science. Well, this kid came up to my table, and he was, he was registering for Botany for Gardeners. And he told me, he says, the only gardening that I've ever done is closet gardening. And then he kind of winked in a smirk and went on. And we registered him for the class. And I thought the whole time, this kid does not know what he is getting himself in for. This class was not an easy class, but it was in disguise. The name of the class made it seem like it was more easy than it was, but actually it was a plant physiology class, and you learn a whole lot from it. I have a handout from the class that the professor gave me, and I have put it on my computer. I think it's in a Google Doc. I'm not sure, either a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. And it's a list of the mineral nutrition in plants, the different minerals, and what they're used for in the plants, what their symptoms of deficiency, and then the symptoms if there's too much of it. So I've got that in the Google Doc, and perhaps I'll make it available to you. And if I'm feeling nice, I'll make it available to you. But it made me get out this book. Now let me show you the book that I got out. It's this one. Okay, Plant Physiology. This was one of my textbooks back when I was an undergraduate. I didn't throw it away. My daughter mentioned having thrown away her textbooks. And I did not keep things like my history book or my English books, psychology, all that stuff, but I did keep the textbooks that had something to do with my field. And I am a botanist, so I kept my physiology book. So let me show you. I'm looking down at this. go back to this page right here. Hold this up to you so you can see what I'm reading from. What this page says. It says, what is I can't read backwards. Is it functions of essential mineral elements? Okay, so that's what this is. And in the next page, let me do that for you. Oh, that's a bee. It's one of those hover bees. What are those things called? But they look like they'd sting you, but I've never been stung by one of them. Okay, look at this. So here we go. Here's the different things that I highlighted that I thought was important. That bee is going to drive me crazy. I may end up having to go inside. So I thought this would be something good that I can do a video on, and maybe maybe help y'all out some. I started this discussion when I started thinking about this lady who had posted on a live chat the other night, talking about her grandson having grown pot, and that brought to mind this kid who, during the registration for this plant physiology class that he thought was going to be easy, told me that he had the only gardening that he had ever done was closet gardening. Of course, that's what he was talking about. So, just kind of thinking about that, this is not an easy subject. That kid, cars going by, that kid had to have been in for a shock when he finally got into this class. I wonder if he dropped it or not, because that would be something that he probably would do. He was looking for an easy class, and that was not an easy class. I'm trying to make it interesting. I want you to like it too. Just know that there are sources out there that you can look this up now. You can go on the internet, and you can find the same information that I have in this book. I couldn't go on the internet when I was taking plant physiology back in the 1980s. Plant physiology hasn't changed, so I can still use this same book from the 1980s, and it'll tell me the same answers. That plants' use of nitrogen is the same now as it was then. So yeah, it's okay. I can use an old book. You can Google something like symptoms of mineral deficiencies in plants. That would probably be a good Google term, and then it's going to take you to several places, and you can go through and look up these things that I'm reading right now, and eventually you can be the detective, and you can figure out what it is that's wrong with your plants. You can contact your county extension agent. That's probably one of the best places to go. Now, we all know that the county extension agents are pretty much tied in with synthetic fertilizers that a lot of not really organic practices that a lot of us are using. So we want to take some of the things that they say with a grain of salt. Not necessarily with a grain of salt, that's not correct. But we want to realize when they start talking about giving it so much of ammonium nitrate and this and that there's other ways that you can boost the plant's mineral uptake rather than using the synthetic fertilizers. If the plant's having a problem, if the plant's sick and it needs a quick solution, then quite often these synthetic fertilizers are the way to go. That's not something that you want to use all the time. You want to give your soil the best, build the best soil you can, and give the plant the best natural fertilizers that you can give them. That's going to be the best thing that you can do. They're going to take up the chemicals. They're going to take up all of the different chemicals that are in the synthetic fertilizers out of the ground. When the plant takes it up, it's going to be in its pure form, or it might be in a form that it has to break down. It may take a little bit longer for it to metabolize that form or that food, because it has to break it down into a form it can use. And that's why the synthetic fertilizers are quicker, not necessarily better. They're not better in that they don't build the soil, and that's what the manures and the different compost and the different things that we do to build our soil is good for, because it's not building just the minerals in it, it's building all these other components of the soil that make the soil healthy for the plants. I know a lot of people are just totally against, 100% totally against using any kind of synthetic fertilizer, and I understand that. That's okay. I happen to believe in building my soil, making the soil the best that I can for my plants. And then if a plant gets sick, then you give it medicine. And that's all there is to it. So if a plant looks like it has a deficiency in some mineral, go ahead and give it a little bit of synthetic fertilizer to get it over this hump. And then at the same time, add to the soil's fertility by building the soil and making the soil better. And maybe next time the plant won't have that problem. That's everybody's goal, is to be able to grow the perfect plants with no synthetic fertilizers whatsoever, to grow lush gardens. Look at like the Back to Eden garden. The what is the man's name? I can't remember. What is his name? Paul? I can't remember what his name is. The man in Washington who started the Back to Eden, at least the term Back to Eden. Basically, he's using lasagna gardening and calling it Back to Eden gardening, but that's okay. But his garden is just amazing, and he has just built up his soil into the most amazing soil that you could possibly have. And he grows the best plants because he's got the best soil, and that should be our goal, is to build up the best soil that we can, to provide a better soil for their plants to grow in. And if the plants have the best soil that they can, then we're not going to need to have synthetic fertilizers. If the plant gets sick, then it's okay to give it a little dose of medicine. It's not bad to give a plant a little dose of medicine, as long as you stick with it and you do the best you can to provide that good soil for the plants. Don't feel guilty for doing it. It's okay to give a little bit of synthetic fertilizer to your plants if they're sick. It makes them healthier, and it's going to give you better vegetables. It's not going to hurt you. The plant doesn't know the difference between our minerals that are contained in synthetic fertilizers and the same minerals that it's getting from normal, that's not the word, I shouldn't say normal, from biologically rich soil. The plant doesn't know the difference. To the plant, nitrogen is nitrogen, potassium is potassium, phosphorus is phosphorus, calcium is calcium. You can get calcium to the plant. You can grind up eggshells, and you can put eggshells in the soil. You can put an acid tablet under your tomato plants. The plant doesn't know the difference. Calcium is calcium. So, like I said before, don't feel guilty. Don't berate other people who feel the urge. No, that's not what I want to say. Don't feel bad about people and criticize people who do go the synthetic route. I wouldn't want to completely 100% depend on synthetic fertilizers for my garden. I think that's just poor soil management. You need to build up the soil the best you can, and that means adding compost, adding manures, adding the other things that we do to build better soil. And the best soil is going to have the most nutrients. It's going to have the minerals that the plant needs to do the best it can. And that's what good gardening is. Okay? Bye, y'all. See you next time.